Well, come on, I'm going to start my video on a positive note, considering everything we're going through. Let's make the effort. Imagine that we recover, that it's incredibly difficult, almost impossible, but imagine, because it's also not very hard to imagine given Real's recent and past history. Madrid, many things need to happen. I'm telling you about that match, eh? I've made here my projection into the future for next week, for next Wednesday, of the things that need to happen for Madrid to come back against Arsenal at the Bernabeu. And it's one of those astral conjunctions that suddenly occur in a match and can happen. Imagine if we do it. Do you find the numbers so far normal? I mean, would it be a justification to say, well, hold on, because Ancelotti could still keep coaching this team? No, because what we're seeing is amazing. A team like Real Madrid is impossible, but come on, to dismiss the entire squad, and you can't do, and of course the coach, that in a quarter-final match where you're playing for your life against one of the best teams in Europe, you run 12 kilometers less, you can play worse, you can, well, like yesterday, but you can be less accurate, like yesterday. In fact, if Mbappe scores that goal, well, I already mentioned it in the previous video, I think they would have beaten us anyway, but, well, things would be more even going into the second leg. But running 12 kilometers less, those are numbers that are attributable to the players, but of course also to the coach. And it's one of the worst things about big teams of Europe in all competitions. Look at this. There's another astonishing fact, and it is said that Madrid is the team that has been attacked the most in this entire edition of the Champions League. Some might say, well, it's just that they have played how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more matches than Red Star of the moment. Yes, but they have had more shots on target against Madrid than against Feyenoord, who were eliminated in the previous round. Madrid has played only one more game than this Dutch team, for example. I give one, but of course that way you get nowhere. It is impossible for you to win a competition with these figures. 13 matches in the Champions League, 20 goals conceded. Sorry for the bump on the mic. In 5 matches lost, 8-1. It would be awesome, but clearly, who wins a Champions League with 5 losses? Even though this year there are more matches, there are more games, well, it's impossible. You have conceded 11 goals in the last 4 matches of all competitions. You have lost the last 3 matches because the one against Real Sociedad you lose the cup at the end of the match in the 90 minutes. Then you draw in extra time and win the tie. But you have lost against Real Sociedad, against Valencia, and now against Arsenal, and the tough time you had to come back against Leganes, and you've conceded 11 goals in these last 4 matches. It's unsustainable no matter how you look at it. If in the return leg that miracle we're talking about happens, like that, well, maybe Ceballos will be given minutes in Vitoria and start against Arsenal in Madrid. I'm not saying that Ceballos is going to save us from anything. I'm talking about something already mentioned in previous videos. Ceballos is that footballer who, at a certain point in the season, he joins Real Madrid starts to play better, and when he gets injured, Madrid starts to play worse. This is a fact, these are data. Let him not be the savior. But by being in the midfield, the flow of the game might improve a little more there. And from the point of view of the game and ball movement, it improves in the match against return. At the same time that an Arsenal player is sent off and they are left with 10, and at the same time that Mbappe has a match like the World Cup final where he scores 3 goals and completely turns the face of his team. And a match that seemed absolutely lost, they ended up losing in penalties against Argentina, but you get me. I mean, the first 60-70 minutes of France in that final were terrible, right? So for Madrid to be able to give that same impression in that match without them scoring 2 goals against you first, of course. That is being attentive in defense so they don't score, and suddenly a player like this one stands out with that individual performance. That and Vinicius, well, this with being a bit more accurate than yesterday, it might be possible. maybe if winning 1-0 at the end of the first half, you might create a fear in them in the second half that, well, you could end up, it's just that I say it and I can't believe it, with a 3-0 against Arsenal, seen what I've seen. But, listen, I insist, yeah, it seemed much more difficult, for example, that day when they beat Dortmund 3-0 at the Bernabeu and turned around that tie. And the second was scored in the 90th minute, and if only they had added 2 more minutes, maybe Madrid would have ended up scoring the third. I'm talking about a long time ago. But it was a match where, for example, I know Mourinho was there, I know it's another way of motivating his players, but well, there were many chances in that match, and the result could have been bigger. So we will start feeling more hopeful as the date approaches. And that's how Madridism is, but it's going to have to be a rallying call, the epic and all that. And if in the end it happens, it will be unsustainable to say, now Ancelotti, look, now he does deserve to stay. No, a coach doesn't deserve to stay because of specific moments. A coach deserves to stay because of the course of the season. And whether they come back or not, the trajectory of Real Madrid this season, despite being in the final of the Copa del Rey, the King's Cup, the one we won against a third division team, against Real Sociedad and Leganés. I mean, don't mess with me. It won't be defendable that Ancelotti continues. Ancelotti is a coach who, when Toshishita was talks about what his team needs to improve, Yarnes, he usually says, we have to come together and stay compact. Coming together and staying compact gives us the feeling that it's practically the only instruction he gives to his players when we are up against teams that have 1,000 tactical alternatives to go past us on the left and the right and crush us. Get together and stay compact is the only thing he asks for. Yes, we have said it on this channel many times that with the squad we have, and with the team we have, and with the attackers we have, maybe it would be enough. And hey, I'm not saying that if Madrid got together and was more compact, things wouldn't be going better for us. But would Ancelotti be getting the most out of his squad? No. What does Real Madrid deserve? A coach that gets a little bit out of it, or a coach that gets everything out of it. The Italian has done it in some seasons, but not this one. And Madrid does not forgive. I mean, it's very symptomatic, that feeling at the end of the match, which I am sure you saw in the players, of not keeping up, of giving up, of being absolutely at the mercy of this team, which we already saw in the Super Cup final. Even Barca, with one less player than Madrid. No, they didn't make that final push that we're used to, even in bad seasons. In other words, there's a physical response here, not because they're tired, but because their mindset just can't handle anymore, because the team is not well prepared, and especially because seeing how the opponent plays and how it has dismantled you, you already think you are very inferior. And that is a situation that makes your body freeze. When you see that you are going to steal a ball, but you won't have any option because the team is very spread out, because the other team has already pushed you deep into your own playing area. No, you don't respond to that, to the stimulus. It's not like other times when the team has made comebacks against PSV, for example, a City that was superior to Madrid in the elimination round of 14, and a City that was superior to Madrid last year, but Madrid ended winning those matches. But why? Because there was a feeling that you were playing worse, but you were not inferior, and you could make a comeback because you had that last burst of courage that could change the situation. Not now. And we saw it against Liverpool, there too in the Champions. In the group stage, we saw it against Barca in both matches. We have seen it now too. Well, at some point we even saw it with Milan at home. It's that all the big matches Madrid has played this year have ended in defeat. And many of them with thrashings. It's a textbook coach dismissal. What I want most, because I already read some comments. You are anti-Madridista, I don't know what. You want us to lose. I have seen on X, Richard Hires, for example, talk about some Madrid supporters who seem to want the team to lose. No, we don't want the team to lose. Not at all. We are criticizing the current situation concerning some numbers and feelings, enhanced by the acknowledgement that there is an overwhelmed coach and that there is a president who yesterday left like this from the Emirates in London with this famous Anas Lagari, there is a buena to be seen to populist now as to say, what was he doing with that man at the moment when Madrid lost? No, he's with whoever he wants, and obviously he leaves the stadium like anyone else. But it's very telling what's happening to Madrid. Florentino is focused on something else. We'll make a video about this, okay? And we will also make a video in which we will touch on the subject of turning to the box seats. Because maybe when the fan turns to the box seats or when Florentino orders one of those surveys to see what they think of him and such, and people start to change their opinion, maybe he will react. But Florentino is on another thing. Florentino is on the Super League business. Yes, he is looking forward. I am not going to absolutely criticize that either because the president of Real Madrid has to be above of those situations. And he has already been. And that's why we are where we are institutionally. But he has forgotten about the team. Carvajal got injured. Militao got injured. No one was signed. Kroos left. No one was signed for that position. What did Florentino and the club want Real Madrid to do with such important absences? But how? I mean, is living in look. And I'm sorry to say it because the ones from Narnia are others. Is living in Narnia to think that with all these injuries we were going to have a year as good or better than last year. It's impossible. So they'll come to tell me, then Ancelotti, Estosito, it's not so much his fault. Well, of course, it's not so much his fault. Some of the blame is shared here, but the coach is the first one to cope with this situation. And no, he is not the main culprit, but the season required, indicated, and demanded that you had to use players from the bench, young people, given the wear and tear that your main players already have. And the numbers of minutes this year for Endrick and Güler and many other players, and Asensio, because, well, in the end he was forced to play him, it's a tear and shows the type of coach he is, who will stick with his own, which is why he's already extremely worn out. It's the main sign of decline. If we don't see it, well, I think we are very mistaken. Hopefully we can make a comeback. It can happen for everything I've mentioned before. Football is like that. Madrid is like that. But, and I'm saying it because later, if we make a comeback, they'll come and say, what did you say that day? I'll keep saying the same thing, absolutely. Because I think the signs are clear and I'm the first one who wants Madrid to make a comeback and for us to qualify for the semi-finals. But it's very complicated. All the best to you all. Give it a like if you enjoyed this video. Subscribe to the channel. Please comment, share, and see you in the next one. Bye.